Peggy Joseph took her daughter out of school early Wednesday for this. Her emotions ran high following Obama's speech.
It was the most memorable time of my life. It was a touching moment because I never thought this day would ever happen. I won't have to worry about putting gas in my car. I won't have to worry about paying my mortgage. You know, if I help him, he's going to help me.
Hello everyone, welcome to Global Government News. Today is Monday, July 9th, 2012, and I'm Darko. My website is GGNonline.com and DDarko2012 and DDarko2013 on my YouTube channels. Usually the links are posted in YouTube's video description. I'm taking a break from it. I'm trying to let my wrist heal. It's just really bad. It hurts every day, but it's been getting a little bit better. So hopefully eventually I can get back to the links. Trust me, I don't like not putting those links in there. I mean, that was part of the whole presentation, is the links. You know, I kind of do a brief overview and then go and check out the links. And so, like I said, I apologize for that. It's just if I keep doing it, I'm not going to be able to make videos anymore. So it's as simple as that, because I'll be in too much pain. So, all right. So you just saw that video right there about paying bills, and it says here, scam convinces thousands Obama is paying their bills. So tricksters launch door-to-door campaign. Don't let the heat get to your brain. It says here, thousands from New Jersey to North Carolina to Indiana have been taken in by a scam suggesting that the federal government is willing to cover your out-of-control utility bill. So it says here, in addition to electronically communicating the victims, scammers are sending associates door-to-door, sometimes dressed as utility workers, to inform residents of the fake Obama administration program to hand out pamphlets. It says here they give residents a special bogus bank account information to use in online payments after said residents pony up their social security numbers and personal information as a means of registering for the program. It says here victims are also spreading the scam themselves, telling neighbors about the program after the fake numbers appeared to initially work in Teco's case. So 400 payments went through before it caught on. So it says here, IMF urges Ukraine to hike their gas prices for consumers. The International Monetary Fund again urged Ukraine Friday to raise gas prices for consumers, a sticking point in the resumption of an IMF bailout. It says here that the directors of the IMF urged the authorities to gradually increase gas and heating tariffs and enhance payment compliance. Then we have cash-strapped California votes for $68 billion monorail to get federal bailout. So it goes on and it says that California's budget deficit may be $16 billion, up from $9 billion in January. The state's cities may be keeling over and filing for bankruptcy left and right, stocked in the Mammoth Lakes, and overall container traffic at the Port of Long Beach may have dropped 7% in May compared to last year, but at least California is about to get its own monorail. So it says here it may not be a monorail, but certainly a high-speed line between LA and San Francisco. The winners are Keynesians and labor groups. It says here the losers, anyone who has ever taken math for idiots. And the bill was voted 21-16. And it goes on, it says here, while nobody really expects the train to actually be built, here is the real reason for passing the legislation. The bill authorizes the state to begin selling $4.5 billion in voter-approved bonds that included $2.6 billion to build an initial 130-mile stretch of the high-speed rail in Central Valley. So this is kind of interesting. It says here that this will allow the state to collect another $3.2 billion in federal funding that could have been rescinded if lawmakers failed to act Friday. In summary, just passing the bill, it says here that it gives California a $3.2 billion federal bailout, while the actual use of the funds may or may not ever appear. LePage calls IRS the new Gestapo. The governor uses his radio address to attack President Obama's Affordable Care Act. It goes on here, it says the IRS description was a reference to a provision in the Affordable Care Act that requires Americans not insured by their employers or Medicaid to buy health insurance or pay an annual penalty when filing their tax returns. It goes on here and it says that we the people have been told there is no choice. You must buy health insurance or pay the new Gestapo, the IRS, he said. So this is interesting too. It says here, Maine Democratic Party Chairman Ben Grant responded to his remarks saying, we came to expect a bunch of nonsense, but this step is too far. It appears to be no limit to the extreme language he will use to misinform, degrade, and insult people. So he says somebody needs to explain to him that the governor of the state, he's the governor of the state and not a talk radio host. Wow, so he actually demands an apology for all those that actually suffered under the real Gestapo. So he's going back to anti-Semitism. So, telecom boss under probe over 35 workplace suicides from July 6th. The ex-head of the France's Telecom has been under investigation for harassment over a slew of suicides during his tenure as the probe widens to other former top executives. During his time in charge, Lombard oversaw a huge reorganization at France Telecom, or restructuring, that involved the loss of 22,000 jobs between 2006 and 2008. In addition, more than 10,000 employees were switched to other jobs. And while we're on the subject, we have Texas man accused of helping wife kill herself, cites couple's financial troubles. He says here, a jailed Houston man said he and his wife were going through financial difficulties when he helped her commit suicide, according to authorities. It says here, Mark Kelly, 47, called the police Saturday morning after he found his wife dead in the apartment. He was later arrested on state felony charges of aiding a suicide. So it says here that she was found with a book, a 1996 book titled Final Exit, which contains advice for terminally ill on how to end their lives. Followed by this story, chemical suicides create 2 Pennsylvania hazmat scares. So hazmat scares, what the hell? 2 men turned to the internet when they wanted to end their lives this week. They didn't know each other, but both were in their 20s, both lived in Pennsylvania, both had mothers who paid a price in the end. So, on Sunday morning, a Whitehall man in his 20s created a concoction of toilet bowl cleaner, shampoo, and other household chemicals to create a fatally toxic gas. It's unfortunate that they had to put suicide instructions on the internet, Brenner said. I think, yeah, he's the Whitehall Fire Department chief. And it says here, people who have had perhaps a mental problem see this stuff and try to end it all and make troubles for the people who have to get rid of it. Yeah, so this is the argument, just real quick, this is the whole it's selfish to kill yourself argument. So it's the people that are left behind that are the selfish ones, in my own opinion, because it's always about me, 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 me. What about me? It's like, dude, you're still alive, dude's dead. You got your whole life. Why are you still dragging on about me, me, me? I'm the victim here. You know, you're the selfish one. You want somebody to stay alive that doesn't want to stay alive. But I do find it kind of ironic that you can put a costume on, or a military uniform, and go strapped with machine guns and go kill people that you have no prior beef with at all. You don't know them because, well, it's somebody else told you that they're bad. And you're willing to sacrifice your life for that, not knowing really what it's for or who you're going to kill. That's suicidal, right? Most military members that join the service are suicidal. You have to be to put your life or your, quote, country ahead of yourself, right? That's suicidal. So, but no, that's heroic. So that's patriotism. So that's pretty much it for my whole little suicide rant. The real story behind low and negative interest rates are big banks pushing credit unions out of business. It says here, credit unions serve most Americans better than banks because they generally offer lower interest loans, have fewer fees for memberships than banks, charge for their accounts, and offer better service. Notice that credit unions are reliant on interest from loans and saving accounts to stay afloat. It says here they just posted a story about a Danish central bank setting a negative nominal interest rate, essentially saying is punished. It says, yeah, saving is punished with an additional fee. In America, interest rates are also at near historic lows. Dr. Doom, I guess Nouriel Roubini, says the perfect storm scenario he forecast for the global economy earlier this year is unfolding right now as growth slows in the U.S., Europe, as well as in China. The 2013 perfect storm scenario I wrote on months ago is unfolding, he said, or wrote on Twitter on Monday. Then we have this, UK prepare to seal border against Greeks. It says here the UK revealed Tuesday, July 3rd, it is prepared to seal its borders from Greeks and other Eurozone citizens caught up in the fallout of the sovereign debt crisis in the event of extraordinary stresses and strains. You have to plan, you have to have contingencies, you have to be ready for anything, said David Cameron. It says here they've been working on different scenarios. Under the worst case scenario, reports The Guardian, a Greek exit from the euro would provoke a near total collapse in its economy and result in thousands seeking work elsewhere in the EU. This is from the fall, or basically December of last year, 2011. Prepare for riots and euro collapse. Foreign Office warns the British embassies and the Eurozone have been told to draw up plans to help British expats through the collapse of the single currency amid new fears for Italy and Spain. And I don't know if you remember this article as well. As commandos raid Tampa, U.S. State Department demands power to declare war. So it says here, if you remember this story that I've covered before, they want to have this shadowy U.S. and allied special operation forces working hand in hand with America's embassies and foreign governments. It says here, in a key role to preventing low-intensity conflicts. It says here, and where prevention fails, the same commando diplomat team goes on the attack. The Secretary of State seemed to inform the conference that the State Department now had the unilateral authority to declare a limited state of war via an expanding liaison with the U.S. Special Operations Forces. From a direct quote from her, "We created a new Bureau of Conflict and Stabilization Operations that's working to put into practice lessons learned over the past decades about a civilian surge capacity to deal with crises and hotspots." Next up, those are the places, the hotspots are the places that they pillaged and plundered, right? If you're an American taxpayer, these are the most recent defense purchases. It says not even the 4th of July could stop the Pentagon from an absolutely massive week of defense spending. It says that they spent more than $9.2 billion in mere 4 days. That's up from $4 billion the week before. That a big chunk went to commercial shipping, Maersk, all those names that you see on those trains and stuff like that. $500 million to Boeing for the C-17 transition. It says here another $213 million for the ship-to-shore connector landing craft. That's to replace the Navy's, i.e. Marines, hovercraft, which they never used before, but they might start using them now in Asia and different parts of the world over there, since they're, quote, modernizing their army, right, scaling them down, increasing special forces. Yeah, and then $146 million worth of Boeing weaponry for foreign arms deals, one to Saudi Arabia and India. And actually, it says here the bits of Harpoon hardware are actually going to Pakistan and Turkey. And Turkey says they want to leave the EU just recently, in Pakistan, they, eventually they're going to go rogue, i.e. they're not going to be a puppet government for the West. A Pentagon contractor has been caught illegally selling military technology to China. U.S. satellite maker Loral Space Communications has agreed to pay a $14 million fine for passing missile technology to China. They're basically pleading no contest. They mistakenly sent to the Chinese. These companies got rich selling illegal weapons to U.S. adversaries. It says in the wake of Pratt & Whitney's settlement, the defense giant illegally sold a bunch of helicopter engines to the Chinese. They wondered who else has been busted for outlaw arms. And it goes on here. The ITT Corporation transferred night vision goggles and laser weapon countermeasures to engineers in China. It says here Marsh Aviation sold a bunch of military aircraft engines to Venezuela. Rocky Mountain Instruments Company sold military optics to China, Russia, Turkey, and South Korea. Chitron Electronics sold electronic warfare systems to China for a decade. Boeing knowingly sold military-grade gyroscopic sensors to China. Even after Boeing was informed that the planes contained a device classified as defense article, they continued to sell aircraft equipped with the device. And then here, PPG, basically a Chinese subsidiary of the United States company, sold high-performance coating for nuclear reactors to Pakistan. So how do you like that? And BAE, remember I mentioned this before, they were selling sniper rifles to Pakistan. It's a British defense giant. They were charged with including conspiracy to defraud the United States and conspiracy to violate both the Arms Export Control Act and the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act. Okay, so Mexican drug cartel laundered money through Bank of America, FBI alleges. Well, they did, because I reported on this about over a year ago at least. An FBI affidavit filed in Texas last month says that the Mexican drug cartel has been reportedly funneling cash through a Texas-based racehorse business with Bank of America accounts. Yeah, last time it was in the news, I believe it was Wells Fargo. Japan finds major rare earth deposits, says researcher, in the Pacific seabed, enough to supply its high-tech industries for more than 200 years. Tokyo makes bid to buy disputed islands in the East China Sea, a move that could elevate tensions between the Asian powerhouses. Then we have Russian Prime Minister Medvedev visits to disputed islands irks Japan. Tokyo wants the return of the islands seized by Soviet troops in 1945 and held by Russia ever since. They said this move could be extremely regrettable and have negative impact on relations. Iran's going to sell oil through a private consortium to evade sanctions. China shuns U.S. and invests direct in Iran oil fields. Turkey pays for energy resource import from Iran in gold. Chinese factory has been scrapped after environmental protest. Residents feared it would poison them. Then in Bolivia, anti-mining protests turned deadly, just like in Peru. And bad news for miners, black lung is back. It's an epidemic that has doubled over the past 10 years. They say it could be due to an increased work week. It's gotten 11 hours longer. One miner said it feels like I've got a heavy wet sack on each lung. Thank